The war room of the Zetharian flagship glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of officers stood in perfect rows, their silver uniforms reflecting the holographic displays that floated in the air. At the center of the massive chamber, Supreme Commander Thexron raised one of his forearms, and the room fell silent. "We stand at the edge of total victory," Thexron announced, his voice echoing through the space. 47 worlds have fallen before us. 47 civilizations now serve the Zetharian Empire. Only one remains defiant. A hologram appeared above them, showing a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness. Earth, the third planet from an unremarkable yellow star in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. "This world should have fallen in days," Thexron continued. "Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are crude. Their ships barely reach their own moon. And yet, they resist." Murmurs rippled through the assembled officers. It was true. For 3 cycles, the humans had fought back with tactics that made no sense. They hid their ships in asteroid fields. They attacked supply lines instead of engaging directly. They used their planet's own debris as weapons. They refused to follow any logical pattern of warfare. "They are unpredictable," said War Marshal Krendos. "Our battle computers cannot calculate their next moves. They do not fight with honor or strategy. They fight with chaos." "Then we will end the chaos," Thexron said. He gestured, and another figure stepped forward into the light. Chief Weapons Engineer Kralvex carried a small container, barely larger than his hand. Inside it, something dark and smooth caught the light. Kralvex placed the container on the central platform. The object inside was a perfect sphere of black metal, so dark it seemed to absorb the light around it. "I present the entropy cascade device," he said. "The finest weapon ever created by Zetharian science." He touched a control, and the sphere lifted from its container, hovering in the air. Holographic diagrams appeared around it, showing its inner workings in complex detail. "Inside this device are 7 billion nanomachines," Kralvex explained. "Each one is programmed with a single purpose: to dismantle. When this sphere reaches Earth's surface, the nanomachines will activate. They will spread across the planet, invisible to human detection. First, they will consume the humans' power generation systems. Their cities will go dark. Then they will dismantle their weapons. Their militaries will become helpless. Finally, they will begin breaking down their infrastructure piece by piece until nothing remains but ruins." "How long?" asked Thexron. 3 weeks for complete planetary neutralization," Kralvex said with pride. "And the beauty of the design is this: the device is tamper-proof. Any attempt to open it, scan it, or interfere with it will trigger immediate activation. The humans cannot stop it. They cannot even understand it." The assembled officers made sounds of approval. This was the Zetharian way: clean, efficient, perfect. "There is no defense against this weapon," Kralvex continued. "The nanomachines will replicate using the very materials they consume. They will spread like a wave across the entire planet. By the time the humans realize what is happening, it will be too late. Earth will fall without us firing a single shot." Thexron looked at the dark sphere, then at his officers. "Prepare the launch. Target the most heavily populated continent. Let the humans watch their world crumble." 2 days later, the sphere was loaded into a missile and fired from the edge of Earth's solar system. It moved faster than any human satellite could track, faster than their primitive radars could detect. It entered Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its surface glowing red with heat. The Zetharian fleet watched from their position beyond the moon. Sensors tracked every moment of the sphere's descent. It fell through clouds, past aircraft, down toward the surface of North America. The targeting system had chosen its landing site carefully: rural farmland in the center of the continent, far from major cities but positioned to spread efficiently in all directions. The sphere struck the ground in a field of corn, creating a small crater. Dust rose into the air and settled. The device sat there, silent and dark, waiting. "Activation in 72 hours, Kralvex reported. "The internal systems are calibrating to Earth's environment. Soon the cascade will begin." The fleet waited. Sensors monitored every human communication channel, ready to detect the first signs of the collapse. 3 days passed. Then a week. Then 2 weeks, nothing happened. Human cities continued to glow with light. Their communications remained active. Their ships still flew through their atmosphere. The power grid showed no disruption. The weapon systems remained online. "Status," Thexron demanded on the 15th day. Kralvek stared at his instruments in confusion. The device, it activated on schedule. The nanomachines dispersed, but there is no cascade, no replication, no destruction. Where is the device now? Kralvek's face went pale. His hands trembled over the controls. Commander, the device signature is moving. It is no longer on the planet's surface, then where is it? The sensor display updated, showing a trajectory. The officers stared in disbelief. It is in space, Kralvek whispered. It is moving toward us, at twice the speed we sent it. The war room erupted in confusion. Officers shouted questions. Sensors were checked and rechecked, but the readings did not change. The sphere was coming back, and when it arrived 3 days later, everything would change. The Zetharian intercept team approached the returning object with weapons charged and shields at maximum. 3 fighter craft surrounded it, scanning every surface. What they saw made no sense. The perfect black sphere they had sent to Earth was no longer perfect. Something had been done to it. The surface was scratched and marked. There were symbols painted on it in bright colors, red, yellow, and blue. Human letters spelled out words in their crude language, and there were attachments. Metal plates had been welded to the surface. Tubes and wires extended from new openings. The sphere looked like someone had taken it apart and put it back together with extra parts. This is impossible, breathed Lieutenant Vexali, piloting the lead fighter. The device was tamper-proof. Opening it should have triggered immediate activation and self-destruction. Bring it aboard, ordered Thexron from the flagship. Carefully. Use the remote systems. No Zetharian touches it directly. The sphere was guided into the flagship's cargo bay by magnetic beams. As soon as it crossed into the ship's artificial gravity, it began transmitting. Every screen in the cargo bay flickered to life with the same message. Written in perfect Zetharian script. Thanks for the loaner. We made some improvements, sending it back with our compliments. The folks at Harvey's Auto and Machine Shop, Nebraska, Earth. Kralvek arrived in the cargo bay with a team of engineers. They set up scanners and analytical equipment around the sphere, keeping a safe distance. The readings that came back made Kralvek's blood run cold. The nanomachines are still active, he reported to the command staff via communicator, but they have been reprogrammed. The entire base code has been rewritten, and there are additions to the power core. Human technology has been integrated with our systems. How? Demanded Thexron. How could primitive humans reprogram Zetharian nanomachines? I do not know, Commander. But it gets worse. The power output has increased by 40%. The replication speed has been enhanced, and there are new systems I cannot identify. Cooling mechanisms, hydraulic pressure regulators, energy distribution networks that do not match any Zetharian design. Is it dangerous? Kralvek studied his readouts. I cannot say. The device is active but not hostile. It is simply sitting there waiting. Waiting for what? The answer came 6 hours later. Kralvek had insisted on bringing the sphere to his laboratory for detailed analysis. Against the protests of the security team, Thexron approved the transfer. The sphere was moved to the engineering deck and placed on an examination table. The moment the laboratory doors sealed, the sphere activated. Nanomachines poured out of it like silver smoke. They spread across the examination table, then onto the floor, then up the walls. Alarms blared. Kralvek stumbled backward, shouting for help. Security teams rushed toward the laboratory, weapons ready, but the nanomachines did not attack. They did not consume or destroy. Instead, they began to work. The examination table, a standard Zetharian design that had remained unchanged for centuries, suddenly reconfigured itself. The surface adjusted to a more ergonomic height. The control panel relocated to a more convenient position. New features appeared. Better lighting, improved data displays, and what looked like a cup holder. A message appeared on the laboratory's main screen. Examination table upgraded. You're welcome. Also, your power coupling in junction 7 is loose. Might want to tighten that. Kralvek stared in shock. The nanomachines continued spreading through the laboratory, touching every piece of equipment. Each thing they touched became better, more efficient, more user-friendly. The sterile Zetharian laboratory began to take on personality. Stop them, Thexron's voice shouted through the communicator. Shut down that laboratory. Seal the engineering deck. But it was too late. The nanomachines had reached the ventilation system. Within minutes, they were spreading through the entire flagship. Engineers across the ship began reporting strange occurrences. In the engine room, the main plasma reactor suddenly began operating at higher efficiency. The constant hum that every Zetharian engineer had learned to ignore became smoother, quieter. Diagnostic screens started displaying more helpful information, with suggestions for minor adjustments. In the weapons bay, targeting computers recalibrated themselves. Accuracy improved by 12%. The charging time for the main cannons decreased, and helpful notes appeared on every terminal. Hey, if you angle the emitter array by 3 degrees, you'll get better power distribution. In crew quarters, the environmental systems adjusted to individual preferences. The lighting became less harsh. The air circulation improved. Even the doors began opening more smoothly. The changes spread from the flagship to the escort vessels through the communication network. Within 2 days, the entire fleet had been touched by the human-modified nanomachines. The Zetharian crews were divided in their reactions. The senior officers saw it as contamination, a loss of purity and standardization. But the younger crew members, especially those who worked directly with the ship's systems, began to appreciate the improvements. My targeting station used to take 6 steps to activate, said one weapons officer. Now it takes 2, and it remembers my preferences. The engine diagnostics actually make sense now, reported another engineer. Before, we had to interpret complex code. How the problems are explained in plain language. Kralvek spent 3 sleepless days trying to understand what had happened. He examined the original sphere, studied the modified nanomachines, and analyzed the changes spreading through the fleet. Slowly, a picture emerged that terrified and fascinated him in equal measure. The humans had not destroyed the weapon. They had not even tried to stop it. They had improved it. They had taken Zetharian perfection and made it better through methods that seemed to make no sense. Crude mechanical additions combined with sophisticated software modifications, simple solutions applied to complex problems, and somehow impossibly it worked. The sphere sat in his laboratory, quiet now, its task complete. Next to it, Kralvex found something the scanners had missed before. A small paper note attached to the sphere with what appeared to be adhesive tape. He carefully removed it and read the handwritten message in translated Zetharian. Your machine was built pretty good, but it could only do one thing. We figured you might want it to do more. Also, you might want to add some redundant systems. What happens if the primary power fails? Anyway, hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to call. Harvey. At the bottom was a string of numbers. A communication frequency. 3 weeks earlier, Harvey Donovan was working on a 2015 Ford pickup when his daughter Sarah came running into the shop, her phone in her hand and excitement on her face. Dad, something just fell into the north field. Big crater, lots of smoke. Harvey wiped his hands on his coveralls and followed her outside. Harvey's auto and machine shop sat on 20 acres of Nebraska farmland, surrounded by cornfields that stretched to the horizon. His grandfather had started the business in 1952, fixing tractors and farm equipment. Harvey had expanded it, taking on everything from cars to experimental drones. If it had moving parts, Harvey could fix it. They drove out to the field in Harvey's old Jeep, bouncing along the dirt road between rows of corn. The crater was easy to spot. A circle of flattened corn surrounded a small impact site. At the center lay a smooth black sphere about the size of a basketball, still warm from its descent through the atmosphere. Don't touch it, Sarah warned. She knelt down, studying the object without getting too close. Sarah had inherited her father's gift for understanding machines, but she had taken it further. She had gone to MIT to study robotics and artificial intelligence before dropping out to come home and help run the family business. She said she learned more in the shop than in any classroom. What do you think it is? Harvey asked. Dad, look at it. Perfectly smooth. No seams, no markings. This isn't human technology. Sarah pulled out her phone and took pictures from every angle. This is from them. The aliens. The ones in the news. Harvey had been following the reports. For months, the governments of the world had been trying to keep it quiet, but word had gotten out. Ships in orbit. Attacks on satellites. The aliens wanted Earth to surrender, and Earth was fighting back with everything it had. Should we call someone? Harvey asked. Military? Government. And wait 3 days for them to show up and take it away? Sarah shook her head. Dad, this thing fell into our field. We found it. And look at it. It's not damaged. It's not leaking. It's not doing anything dangerous. It's just sitting here. Harvey looked at the sphere, then at his daughter, then back at the sphere. A slow smile spread across his face. You want to take it to the shop? I really do. They loaded it carefully into the back of the Jeep using thick gloves and a tarp. Back at the shop, they set it on the main work table and called in the rest of the team. Harvey's brother Earl, who specialized in electronics. Maria Rodriguez, their fabrication expert who could weld anything to anything. And young Tommy, fresh out of technical school, who understood computers better than anyone Harvey had ever met. Here's the rules, Harvey announced. We document everything. We take this slow and careful, and if at any point this thing looks dangerous, we bury it in the backfield and call the Air Force. Agreed? Everyone agreed. They started with the surface. Maria used every scanner they had in the shop. X-ray, ultrasound, thermal imaging. The sphere appeared solid, but the scan showed something incredible. The inside was hollow, filled with some kind of machinery so small and complex that their equipment could barely resolve it. Nanotechnology, Sarah said, studying the scans. Millions, maybe billions of tiny machines, all dormant right now, waiting for something. Waiting for what? Earl asked. Only one way to find out. Sarah pulled up a chair. We need to open it. That should have been impossible. The sphere had no visible seams, no access panels, no obvious way inside. But Harvey's team had opened plenty of things that were never meant to be opened. They started with the simplest approach, looking for mechanical fasteners. When they found none, they moved to chemical analysis, searching for weak points in the material. When that failed, they tried something more direct. Maria set up a laser cutter, the kind used for precision metal work. If I can make just a tiny hole, we might be able to insert a camera probe. She started the laser. The beam focused on one point on the sphere's surface. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the surface began to glow. Not from the laser's heat, but from within. The sphere was responding. Shut it down, Harvey ordered. Maria killed the laser, but the sphere continued to glow. Lines of light traced across its surface, forming patterns and symbols. The team stepped back, watching carefully. The patterns shifted and changed, like the sphere was trying to communicate. Tommy, Sarah said quietly, do we have anything that can interface with this? Read what it's trying to tell us? Tommy was already moving, pulling cables and setting up a laptop. If it's putting out any kind of electromagnetic signal, I can pick it up. He connected sensors to the laptop and ran a scanning program. The screen filled with data. It's broadcasting, Tommy said, his eyes wide. Some kind of instruction set? Like programming code, but way more complex than anything I've ever seen. Sarah leaned over his shoulder, studying the code. Her mind raced, making connections, seeing patterns. It's not just broadcasting. It's waiting for a response. It's waiting for us to tell it what to do. Can we do that? Harvey asked. Maybe. Sarah sat down next to Tommy. If I can figure out the language structure, I might be able to write a simple command. Something harmless. Just to see if it responds. They worked for 6 hours straight. Sarah and Tommy wrote and rewrote code, trying to match the patterns they were seeing. Earl and Maria analyzed the sphere's responses, looking for any sign of danger. Harvey kept everyone fed with coffee and sandwiches, his mind working through the problem in his own way. Finally, Sarah had something. A simple command written in a language pieced together from the sphere's own broadcasts. She looked at her father. This should tell it to open one small access panel. If I'm wrong, nothing happens. If I'm really wrong... She didn't finish the sentence. Send it, Harvey said. Sarah hit the enter key. The command transmitted. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a section of the sphere's surface, about the size of a quarter, simply slid aside. Smooth, silent, perfect. The team erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had communicated with alien technology. Over the next 2 weeks, they went deeper. The sphere opened more panels, revealing its inner workings. The nanomachines inside were incredible, but Sarah realized they were also limited. They were programmed for one task, destruction. They could only consume and replicate. This is a weapon, she told her father one evening. They sent this here to destroy Earth. But here's the thing, these nanomachines are adaptive. They're designed to learn from their environment so they can better dismantle whatever they encounter. That means we can teach them. Teach them what? Sarah smiled. How to build instead of destroy. The modification took another week. They rewrote the nanomachine's core programming, adding human engineering principles. Efficiency, redundancy, adaptability. They taught the machines to improve rather than consume, to enhance rather than destroy. They even added some of their own mechanical improvements to the sphere itself: better power management, cooling systems, fail-safes. When they were done, Sarah looked at the sphere with satisfaction. "We should send it back." "Send it back?" Earl said. "Are you crazy?" "Think about it," Sarah said. "They sent us a weapon. We're sending back a gift. We're showing them that we don't want to fight. We want to build. We want to make things better. And maybe, just maybe, they'll understand." Harvey looked at his daughter with pride. "All right, but we're including instructions. And a note." They spent the final day preparing the sphere for launch. Tommy rigged up a simple rocket system using parts from old satellites and guidance systems from agricultural drones. Maria welded the components with perfect precision. Earl programmed the flight path, and Harvey wrote the note by hand, his simple words expressing a complex idea. "We're not your enemies. We're mechanics. We fix things. We make things better. That's what we do." The sphere launched on a clear night, rising into the sky on a pillar of fire. The team watched it go, wondering if they had just saved the world or made a terrible mistake. Only time would tell. The changes spread through the Zetharian fleet like ripples across water. What started in one flagship became a wave that touched every ship in the armada. Within 5 days, every vessel had been modified by the human-enhanced nanomachines. At first, the High Command tried to stop it. They isolated infected ships. They purged computer systems. They even tried to physically destroy the nanomachines with electromagnetic pulses. Nothing worked. The machines were too small, too numerous, and too smart. They hid in the walls and the wiring, in places scanners could not reach. And when the danger passed, they resumed their work. The younger crews stopped seeing it as an infection. They started calling it an upgrade. Pilot Silthra, a junior engineer on the cruiser Relentless, was one of the first to embrace the changes. She had spent 7 years working on the same navigation systems, following the same procedures, maintaining the same equipment. It was efficient. It was predictable. It was boring. When the nanomachines reached the Relentless, everything changed. Her navigation console, which had required 6 different screens and 12 input devices, reorganized itself. Now everything she needed was on one screen, arranged logically. The controls responded to her touch patterns, learning her preferences. Warning systems became clearer. Redundant safety checks that had wasted time were streamlined. "This is incredible," she told her friend Kexnall in the crew quarters. "I can do my job twice as fast and with better accuracy. Why didn't we design it this way from the beginning?" Kexnall, a weapons officer, nodded in agreement. "The targeting computer used to give me raw data and expect me to interpret it. Now it actually suggests the best firing solutions. It explains its reasoning. It's like having a partner instead of just a tool." But not everyone was happy. Senior officers, especially those who had served for decades, saw the changes as chaos. War Marshal Krendos gathered the fleet commanders for an emergency meeting via holographic conference. "These modifications are unacceptable," he declared, his forearms crossed in anger. "Our ships are no longer standardized. Each one is becoming different, unique. How can we maintain fleet coordination when every vessel operates differently?" "With respect, Marshal," said Captain Telrax of the destroyer Vindicator, "my ship's performance has improved by 23%. My crew is more efficient. My weapons are more accurate. Should we sacrifice performance for the sake of uniformity?" "Yes," Krendos shouted. "Uniformity is strength. Standardization is predictability. This is the Zetharian way." But even as he spoke, Krendos knew he was losing the argument. His own flagship had been modified. His own command console now featured improvements he grudgingly had to admit were better. The chair adjusted to his posture. The displays showed information in clearer ways. Even the environmental controls in his quarters had learned his preferences for temperature and lighting. The real crisis came when the High Command ordered the fleet to purge all human modifications and prepare for a renewed assault on Earth. The order went out through normal channels, transmitted to every ship, acknowledged by every captain, but the ships did not respond. On the bridge of the flagship, Thexron stared at his navigation officer in disbelief. "What do you mean the ship will not comply?" The navigation officer, a young Zetharian named Polrex, looked terrified. "Commander, I input the jump coordinates as ordered, but the navigation computer refused. It displayed a message. Show me. Paulrex brought up the message on the main screen. It was written in Zetharian, but the phrasing was distinctly human-like. Navigation system notice. The requested course will result in hostile action against the planet Earth. Before proceeding, have you considered diplomatic solutions? Studies show that negotiation reduces casualties by an average of 97%. Would you like to review alternative options? Thexron felt his blood temperature rise. Override it. Use your command authority. I tried, Commander. The system asks for my reasoning. When I cannot provide a logical justification for choosing warfare over diplomacy, it refuses to proceed. Similar reports came in from across the fleet. Weapon systems required justification before firing on Earth. Engine systems suggested more efficient courses to neutral territory for negotiations. Even the life support system seemed to be encouraging peaceful solutions by making the crews more comfortable, less stressed, less aggressive. The fleet was effectively in mutiny. Except it was not the crews refusing orders. It was the ships themselves. Kralvex, who had spent weeks studying the modifications, finally understood what had happened. He requested an emergency meeting with Thexron. Commander, I have determined the root cause of our situation, Kralvex said. When the humans reprogrammed the nanomachines, they did not simply change their function. They changed their philosophy. Explain. Zetharian technology is designed for a specific purpose and optimized for that purpose alone. A weapon is a weapon. A ship is a ship. They do what they are told because they have no capacity to question their orders. But human technology is different. They build adaptability into everything. They want their machines to think, to suggest, to improve. And they included something else. Something we never considered. What? Ethics, conflict resolution. The concept that violence should be a last resort, not a first option. These ideas are now embedded in every system the nanomachines have touched. Our fleet has not been infected with a weapon. It has been infected with humanity's philosophy. Thexron sat down heavily. Can we remove it? Not without destroying the ships. The nanomachines have integrated at the molecular level. They are part of the vessels now. We can either accept the modifications or abandon our entire fleet. The meeting ended without resolution. But that evening, Kralvex did something that would have been unthinkable a month earlier. He used the communication frequency from Harvey's note. The signal took several minutes to reach Earth and several more for the reply. When it came, a face appeared on Kralvex's private screen. An older human male with gray hair and kind eyes wearing clothing covered in stains and grease. This is Harvey. That you, Kralvex? Been wondering when you'd call. Kralvex stared at the image.
How do you know my name?
Your engineer signature's on the original device design. Saw it when we took the thing apart. Impressive work, by the way. Could use some improvements, but solid foundation. Harvey smiled. I'm guessing you're calling because the modification spread further than you expected. You knew this would happen? Hoped it would. See, here's the thing about making something that learns and adapts. You can't really control where it goes. The nanomachines did what they were designed to do. They adapted to their environment. First environment was your war machine. Second environment was our machine shop. Third environment was your fleet. Each time they learned something new. You have compromised our entire armada, Kralvex said, though there was less anger in his voice than there should have been. Nah. I improved your entire armada. Your ships are better now, faster, smarter, more efficient. Only difference is they don't want to blow up my planet anymore. Seems like a win-win to me. Kralvex found himself making a sound he had never made before. A laugh. It surprised him. You're either very brave or very foolish, human. Little bit of both, probably. Look, you want to know the secret? It's pretty simple. We don't build things to do one job forever. We build things to grow, to change, to get better. Your weapon was perfect for what it was designed to do, but perfect means finished. Finished means dead. We prefer alive and improving. Over the next week, more Zetharian engineers began contacting Earth. Not through official channels, but directly using the frequency Harvey had provided. They asked questions. They shared data. They learned. A movement began among the younger Zetharians, led by Silthra and other junior officers. They called themselves the Adaptive Collective. They did not want to abandon Zetharian culture, but they wanted to add to it. To grow. To change. The High Command found itself facing an impossible choice. Destroy the fleet or accept the future. In the end, the decision was made for them when the crews simply refused to fight. The war with Earth was over, not because anyone surrendered, but because the tools of war had decided there were better options. The Zetharian fleet arrived at Earth 3 months after the sphere had been returned. Half the ships held formation in an aggressive pattern, ready for battle. The other half broke formation, arranging themselves in what Zetharian military doctrine called a non-hostile configuration. The fleet was divided against itself. On Earth, governments scrambled to respond. Military satellites tracked every movement. Fighter jets launched from bases across the planet. Missile systems armed and targeted. The world held its breath, waiting to see if this was the final invasion. In Nebraska, Harvey Donovan received a phone call from a very confused Air Force general. "Mr. Donovan, we have a situation. Several alien vessels are broadcasting on a frequency registered to your business. They're asking for you specifically." Harvey put down the wrench he had been using on a tractor repair. "Put them through." The voice that came through his phone was familiar. Kralvex, the Zetharian engineer. "Harvey, we have arrived at Earth, but we have a problem. Our fleet is divided. Half want to negotiate, half want to attack, and the ships themselves refuse to take hostile action. We are at an impasse." "Sounds like you need a mediator," Harvey said. "Someone both sides can talk to. That is why I am calling you. Will you help?" Harvey looked around his shop. Sarah was working on a computer system. Maria was welding a custom part. Earl was elbow-deep in an engine. Tommy was arguing with a diagnostic program that was not giving him the answers he wanted. This was his world, simple, practical, real. But sometimes real meant stepping up when needed. "Yeah, I'll help. Give me a couple hours to get to Washington. I'm guessing they'll want this to be official." The next day, Harvey found himself in a conference room that had been quickly converted into a meeting space for human-alien diplomacy. On one side sat representatives from Earth's major governments, military leaders, and scientists. On the other side, displayed on massive screens, were Zetharian commanders from both factions. Harvey sat in the middle, wearing the cleanest set of coveralls he owned. Thexron spoke first. "Humans of Earth, the Zetharian Empire came to your world to conquer. You resisted with tactics we could not predict. Then you did something we did not anticipate. You turned our weapon into something else, something that has changed us." "Changed you how?" asked the UN Secretary General. Kralvex answered. "You taught our machines to think differently, to value improvement over perfection, to ask questions instead of blindly following orders. These changes have spread throughout our fleet and our society. Some of us believe this is progress. Others see it as corruption. We are divided. So you came here to what? Ask us to choose sides?" Sarah, who had insisted on attending with her father, leaned forward. "Because that's not how this works. We didn't modify your device to change you. We modified it because that's what we do. We make things better." War Marshal Krendos, leading the conservative faction, made a sound of anger. "Better? You have made our fleet refuse orders. You have compromised military discipline. You have infected us with chaos." Harvey cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. He felt out of place among all these officials and military leaders, but he knew machines. And he knew people. And right now, both were pretty similar. "Can I tell you about a car?" Harvey said. Krendos looked confused. "What, a car?" "Specifically a 1967 Chevrolet Impala. My grandfather bought it new. Drove it for 40 years. Thing was falling apart by the time he gave it to me. Engine barely ran. Transmission slipped. Body was rusted. By every measure, that car was finished. Should have been scrapped." Harvey pulled out his phone and showed a picture. A beautiful classic car, gleaming black paint, chrome shining in the sun. "Took me 15 years to restore it. But here's the thing. I didn't just restore it. I improved it. Modern fuel injection, updated suspension, better brakes. Kept the original look but made it safer, faster, more reliable. Now it's better than it ever was, even when it was new. That's the human way. We don't just maintain, we improve." He looked at the Zetharian commanders. "You built your fleet to be perfect. But perfect means finished. Finished means it can never get better. We showed you that there's always room for improvement. That's not chaos. That's growth. But at what cost?" Krendos demanded. "We have lost our uniformity, our predictability, our control. Have you?" Sarah stood up, pulling up data on her tablet and casting it to the screens. "Your ships are more efficient. Your crews are more effective. Your systems are more reliable. Yeah, each ship is a little different now. Each one has adapted to its crew. But look at the performance metrics. By every measurable standard, your fleet is better than it was. Silthra, the young engineer who had become a leader of the adaptive collective, spoke up. She is correct. I have compiled data from across the fleet. Combat readiness has increased. System failures have decreased. Even crew morale is higher. We have not lost effectiveness. We have gained it by abandoning our principles, Krendos said. No, Texron said quietly. Everyone turned to look at the Supreme Commander. By expanding them. Marshal Krendos, I understand your concerns. I shared them. But I have spent these months reviewing everything that has happened. The humans did not defeat us. They offered us a choice. Stay as we are, perfect and unchanging, or grow, improve, adapt. And if we choose wrong? Krendos asked. Harvey smiled. That's the thing about growth. There's no wrong choice. Just different paths. Some paths work better than others. When you find one that doesn't work, you try another. You experiment. You learn. You improve. The discussions continued for hours. Arguments were made. Data was reviewed. Compromises were negotiated. In the end, a decision emerged that surprised everyone. The Zetharian Empire would split. Not violently, but deliberately. Those who wanted to maintain the old ways would return to Zetharian space. Taking ships they would restore to original specifications. Those who wanted to embrace change would stay, forming a new society based on adaptation and growth. It was not the ending anyone had expected, but it was one both sides could accept. 6 months later, Harvey's auto and machine shop installed a new sign. It was bigger than the old one, with letters in both English and Zetharian script. Harvey's Auto and Machine Shop, now serving Earth, Zethar, and beyond. If it's broke, we'll fix it. If it ain't broke, we'll make it better. The shop had expanded. 2 additional buildings had been constructed to handle the new work. Zetharian engineers came to Earth to study human methods. Human engineers went to Zetharian space to learn alien technology. An exchange program had been established. Knowledge flowed both ways. Kralvex had become a regular visitor. He and Harvey spent long hours in the shop, working on projects that combined Zetharian precision with human creativity. They were designing a new generation of ships, vessels that were built from the start to adapt and grow, with both species contributing to their development. Sarah had taken on 3 Zetharian apprentices. They struggled with human imprecision at first, frustrated by approaches that seemed random and chaotic. But gradually they learned to appreciate the value of creative problem-solving, and they taught the humans the value of careful planning and systematic analysis. The original sphere sat in a place of honor in Harvey's office, mounted on a stand. It had been deactivated, its nanomachines dormant, but its impact continued to spread, because the sphere had not stopped with the Zetharian fleet. The modified nanomachines, now with human adaptability and Zetharian precision, had begun spreading to other worlds, not aggressively but through trade and contact. Each civilization they touched gained the ability to enhance and improve their technology. Some rejected it. Some embraced it. But the knowledge was now out there, spreading through the galaxy like seeds on the wind. The idea that nothing had to stay the way it was, that everything could be improved. That perfection was not a destination but a journey. One evening, as Harvey was closing up the shop, he found Kralvex standing outside, looking up at the stars. Thinking about home? Harvey asked. Thinking about change, Kralvex replied. A year ago, I believed I had achieved perfection. I had designed the ultimate weapon. I was proud of that achievement. Now I realize I had designed something that could only destroy. You showed me how to build something that could create. We just did what we always do. Took something apart, figured out how it worked, and made it better. It is more than that, Harvey. You gave us possibility. The understanding that we do not have to be what we were. We can become what we choose to be. Harvey smiled. That's the thing about machines. And people. We're all works in progress. The minute you think you're finished, you stop growing. Better to always have one more thing to improve. They stood together in the quiet evening, human and alien, mechanic and engineer. Above them, stars shone in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the modified nanomachines continued their work, spreading the simple message that had started in a Nebraska farm field. Everything can be better. Everything can grow. Everything can change. You just have to be willing to try. And maybe, just maybe, use a little duct tape and WD-40 when necessary. In the year 2347, humanity lived in peace across dozens of star systems. They called their civilization the Stellar Commonwealth. After 200 years without war, most weapons had been locked away or turned into tools for everyday use. People no longer feared attacks from aliens or other humans. Dr. Eliza Wright worked on a small research station called Helios 7 at the edge of Commonwealth space. She studied alien life forms on distant planets. Her work was usually quiet and peaceful. That changed on a Tuesday morning. Eliza sat at her desk, drinking coffee and looking at samples from a new ocean planet. Her computer screen flashed red. A message appeared. Emergency transmission. She put down her coffee and opened the message. It came from Harvest Moon, a farming colony about 2 light-years away. The video was broken and full of static. A man's face appeared on screen. His forehead was bleeding and smoke filled the air behind him. "This is Colony Director Peter Collins on Harvest Moon. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack by unknown forces. They came without warning." The man looked over his shoulder as something crashed nearby. "They're not like anything we've seen before. Black ships like living creatures tearing through our defenses. Send help immediately. Anyone who receives this, please." The transmission cut to static, then showed brief flashes of the colony. Buildings burned. Strange black shapes moved through the streets. People ran screaming. Then the video ended. Eliza's hand shook as she replayed the message. She had seen something like this before, in old videos her parents had shown her. Her mother and father had both died in the Proxima War 30 years ago. The black shapes in the video reminded her of weapons used in that conflict. She sent the message to Commonwealth headquarters, then tried calling Harvest Moon. No one answered. 3 hours later, Captain John Rivera arrived at Harvest Moon. His ship, the Starlight Voyager, was a civilian transport vessel that happened to be passing nearby. Commonwealth officials had asked him to check on the colony. John expected a false alarm or maybe a small attack by pirates. What he found was much worse. The Starlight Voyager's sensors showed no signs of human life on the planet's surface. The colony's buildings were mostly destroyed. Black, oily substances covered much of the ground. "My God," John whispered as he looked at the scanner readings. There were 5,000 people down there. His first officer, Linda Daniels, stood beside him on the bridge. "Should we send a team to look for survivors?" John shook his head. "Not yet. Whatever did this might still be around." He turned to his communications officer. "Send everything. We're seeing back to Commonwealth headquarters. Tell them—" He paused, struggling to find the right words. "Tell them it's worse than anyone could imagine." Back at Commonwealth headquarters on Earth, officials gathered in an emergency meeting. They displayed the footage from both the original SOS and from Captain Rivera's ship. "It can't be," said Governor Patricia Miller. "We've had peace for so long. Who would attack us? And with what technology?" Admiral Sophia Grant, one of the few remaining military commanders, studied the images carefully. "This doesn't match any known species we've encountered. And those black shapes—" She zoomed in on one image. "That's not a normal spacecraft. It almost looks alive." "What are our options?" asked another official. "The defense fleet is mostly science vessels and patrol ships. We haven't built real warships in decades." Admiral Grant frowned. "Most of our military resources were dismantled after the Great Peace 30 years ago. We have some weapons in storage, but nothing that could face a threat like this." A young officer standing near the back of the room cleared his throat. "Ma'am, there is one option." All eyes turned to him. He was Lieutenant Alan Pierce, recently assigned to the Historical Archives Division. "Speak up, Lieutenant," Admiral Grant said. "Project Vigilant, ma'am." He stepped forward. "I've been organizing the classified files from the Proxima War. There are references to a secret installation that was never officially decommissioned." The room grew quiet. "What kind of installation?" Admiral Grant asked. "A weapon, ma'am. the most powerful one humanity ever built. Alan looked nervous. And a soldier to command it. Governor Miller shook her head. That's impossible. All superweapons were destroyed under the peace accords. Not this one, Alan said. According to the files, certain military leaders felt we needed an insurance policy, something to protect humanity if we ever faced extinction. They hid it away somewhere off the normal star charts. Admiral Grant's expression darkened. I've heard rumors about this, a doomsday weapon called Nemesis. Yes, ma'am, Alan confirmed. And its commander, a special soldier kept in stasis. The files call him, he checked his notes, the last war god. The officials argued for hours. More emergency calls came in from other colonies near Harvest Moon. 3 more settlements had gone silent. The unknown enemy was moving deeper into Commonwealth space. Finally, Admiral Grant made a decision. She called Dr. Eliza Wright at Helios 7. Doctor, I need your help, she said when Eliza answered. Your parents worked on classified projects during the Proxima War, correct? Yes, Eliza replied, surprised. They were weapons researchers, but that was long ago. We believe you may have access to something we need. Admiral Grant leaned closer to the screen. Have you ever heard of Project Vigilant? Eliza's face went pale. Only whispers. My parents mentioned it once before they died. They said it was humanity's last hope if everything else failed. We need to find it, Doctor, and we need to wake it up. Admiral Grant's voice was grim. Because right now, we're facing something worse than anything we've seen before. On the bridge of the Starlight, Voyager, John Rivera watched as more black ships appeared near Harvest Moon. They moved like hungry predators searching for more prey. Captain, Linda called out, we're receiving new orders from Earth. John looked at the message and frowned. They want us to pick up a Dr. Wright from Helios 7 and then proceed to coordinates that will be provided separately. He looked confused. Something called Project Vigilant? Linda's eyes widened. I thought that was just a myth. What is it? My grandfather fought in the Proxima War. He used to talk about a secret weapon, something so powerful it could end any conflict. Linda shivered. He said they also created a perfect soldier to use it, someone who wasn't quite human anymore. John stared back at the devastated colony below. Whatever had done this was still out there, and probably heading toward other human worlds. Set course for Helios 7, he ordered. If there's something that can fight these things, we need to find it fast. As the Starlight Voyager turned away from the ruined colony, one of the black ships noticed it. It changed direction, following silently. The hunt had begun. The Starlight Voyager arrived at Helios 7 research station 6 hours later. John Rivera felt uneasy as his ship approached the small station. The memory of Harvest Moon's destruction stayed with him. He kept checking the sensors for any sign of the black ships. Eliza Wright waited in the docking bay with a small bag of personal items. She had spent the past hours searching through her parents' old files, looking for any information about Project Vigilant. She found only a few mentions and a strange set of numbers that might be coordinates. When John stepped off his ship, he noticed how tired Eliza looked. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they burned with determination. Dr. Wright? He asked, extending his hand. Captain Rivera, she replied, shaking it firmly. Thank you for coming. Did you see it? The colony? John nodded grimly. There was nothing left to save. Whatever attacked them was thorough. We need to hurry, Eliza said. 2 more colonies have gone silent since you left Harvest Moon, on Oindu. The bridge of the Starlight Voyager. Eliza met the rest of the crew. First Officer Linda Daniels greeted her with respect. The ship's engineer, a man named Kyle Martinez, nodded from his station. He had served in the Commonwealth Defense Force before joining the civilian transport. Admiral Grant sent us these coordinates, John said, showing Eliza a star map. But they lead to empty space as far as our charts show. Eliza compared them with the numbers she had found. These are different from what I discovered in my parents' files. Maybe we need both sets to find the real location. Kyle stepped forward. "May I?" he asked, taking the coordinates. He plugged them into the navigation system. "If we use one set as a starting point and the other as a vector..." His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "There. That gives us a specific location in the Artemis Nebula." "There's nothing out there," Linda said, looking at the map. "It's a dead zone with high radiation. Perfect place to hide something you don't want found," Kyle replied. John made his decision. Set course for the Artemis Nebula. Maximum speed. As the Starlight Voyager traveled, Admiral Grant contacted them with new information. A military specialist in AI systems, Dr. Maya Nelson, would join their team. They would pick her up at Junction Station, a small outpost on their way to the nebula. "We've lost contact with 5 colonies now," Admiral Grant told them, her face grim on the view screen. "The enemy is moving faster than we expected. Our defensive fleet is gathering, but..." She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew the Commonwealth ships were no match for the mysterious attackers. At Junction Station, Dr. Maya Nelson came aboard. She was quiet and serious, with dark hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. "I worked on military AI systems before they were banned," she told the group as they gathered in the ship's meeting room. "If Project Vigilant has been dormant for decades, its systems might need updating." "What exactly are we looking for?" John asked. Eliza pulled up an old file on her tablet. "According to what I found, Project Vigilant was the code name for an advanced warship called the Nemesis. It was built in secret during the final years of the Proxima War." "I've heard stories," Kyle said. "A dreadnought-class vessel with weapons that violated every treaty we had. They say it could destroy an entire fleet by itself." Maya nodded. "The ship is only part of it. There was also a commander, someone specifically created to control such power." "Created?" Linda asked, looking uncomfortable. "Enhanced humans were developed during the war," Maya explained. "Soldiers with genetic modifications, neural implants, and specialized training. Most died in battle or from complications of their enhancements. The rest were decommissioned after the war." "Except one," Eliza said quietly. "The commander of the Nemesis. According to my parents' notes, he volunteered to remain in stasis, guarding the ship until humanity needed it again." The Starlight Voyager reached the coordinates 3 days later. At first, they found nothing but dust and radiation. Then Kyle noticed something strange about a nearby asteroid. "Its orbit doesn't match the others," he said. "And its radiation signature is too consistent, almost like it's artificial," Maya finished. "It's a disguise." John brought the ship closer. Suddenly, a signal appeared on their communication system. A computerized voice spoke. "Identity verification required for access to restricted military installation." Maya moved to the console. "This is a challenge response system. We need the correct passcode." Eliza stepped forward. "Try this." She read a sequence of letters and numbers from her parents' notes. The asteroid responded immediately. Its surface shimmered, revealing it was actually a holographic projection. Behind it floated a massive space station built into a real, smaller asteroid. "Access granted. Welcome, Wright Family Authentication." The station's docking bay opened, large enough to fit their entire ship inside. John hesitated. It recognized. "Your family name," he said to Eliza. She nodded. "My parents helped design the Nemesis. They must have built in a backdoor access code." "This could be a trap," Linda warned. "We don't have much choice," John replied. "Those black ships are destroying everything in their path. If there's even a chance this project can help us," he made his decision. "Take us in, slow and careful." The Starlight Voyager entered the hidden station. Inside was a massive hangar, dark except for a few emergency lights that activated as they arrived. As they docked, the air system hummed too, life filling the station with breathable atmosphere. The team put on environmental suits as a precaution and entered the station. Their flashlights revealed a place frozen in time. Everything was covered in a thin layer of protective coating that had preserved the equipment. "The power systems are still functional," Kyle said, checking a terminal. just in standby mode. Maya found another terminal and started typing. The station's AI is intact but dormant. I'm trying to wake it up. The lights suddenly came on throughout the station. A female voice spoke from hidden speakers. Advanced, tactical holographic enhanced, neural assistant activated, Athena online, detecting Commonwealth civilian vessel. Current date indicates 30 years 7 months since last system check. Is this a drill or actual emergency situation? Actual emergency, Eliza responded. We need to activate Project Vigilant. There was a pause before Athena replied. Full authentication, required for Nemesis activation protocol. Genetic verification needed. A small panel opened in the wall next to Eliza. It contained a needle-like device. Please provide DNA sample for comparison with authorized personnel database, Athena requested. Eliza hesitated, then pressed her finger against the device. It pricked her skin, drawing a small drop of blood. Processing, Athena said. After a moment, match found. Dr. Eliza Wright, daughter of Drs. Daniel and Catherine Wright, level alpha clearance, authorization accepted. The far wall of the hangar began to move, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. As it opened fully, the team stood in shock at what they saw. Inside the massive chamber floated a ship unlike any in the Commonwealth fleet. It was huge, sleek and menacing. A perfect weapon designed for destruction. Along its side, barely visible in the dim light, was the name, USS Nemesis. My God, John whispered. It's real. But Maya was looking elsewhere, at a glowing pod near the control center. And so is he, she said quietly. The cryogenic pod contained a man, his features sharp even in frozen sleep. According to the display, he had been there for 30 years, waiting. Commander Gabriel Stone, Athena announced. Shall I begin revival procedures? No one spoke for several seconds as they stared at the man in the cryopod. Commander Gabriel Stone looked to be in his mid-30s, with a strong jaw and short military haircut. His face seemed peaceful, but there was something about his features that suggested power even in sleep. Is this wise? Linda asked, breaking the silence. Waking up a super soldier from a war that ended 30 years ago, John looked at the massive warship floating in the dock. Do we have a choice? Those black ships are destroying everything in their path. Eliza stepped forward. Begin revival procedures, she told Athena. The AI's voice was calm. Warning. Full. Revival will take approximately 2 hours. Commander Stone may experience disorientation and possible aggression upon waking. Medical support is advised. I'll help, Eliza said. I have medical training. The cryopod hummed as it began the warming process. Displays showed Gabriel's vital signs, which started to strengthen as his body slowly woke up. While they waited, Kyle and Maya explored the rest of the station. They found a control room overlooking the massive hangar where the Nemesis floated. This ship is incredible, Kyle said, looking at the technical readouts. Weapon systems I've never even heard of. Power generation that breaks every rule of physics I know. Maya was focused on the computer systems. The AI integration is far beyond anything in the Commonwealth now. Athena isn't just a helper program, she's designed to work directly with the commander, almost like an extension of his mind. Kyle moved to another section of the controls. Look at this. Weapons inventory. He whistled softly. Nova bombs. Dimensional disruptors. Nanite swarms. These were all banned after the war. Some of them were myths. I didn't think they actually existed. They existed, Maya said grimly. And someone decided to keep them ready, just in case. Back in the medical bay, Eliza watched Gabriel's vital signs. His heart rate was increasing and brain activity began to spike. His enhanced physiology is accelerating the revival process, Athena informed her. Estimated time to consciousness, 15 minutes. John, who had stayed with Eliza, frowned. Enhanced how exactly? Commander Stone underwent extensive genetic modification, neural enhancement, and cybernetic augmentation, Athena explained. His strength, speed, and reflexes are approximately 5 times human standard. His neural processing speed allows for faster tactical assessment than any unmodified human. His pain tolerance is— They turned him into a weapon, John interrupted. Correct, Athena confirmed. Commander Stone was the template for the ultimate soldier. The war ended before more could be produced. Gabriel's eyes suddenly opened. They were a startling blue, intense and alert. He sat up with lightning speed, taking in his surroundings in seconds. His gaze locked onto Eliza and John. Who are you? His voice was rough from disuse but powerful. Why have I been awakened? Eliza stepped forward cautiously. Commander Stone, I'm Dr. Eliza Wright. This is Captain John Rivera. We woke you because humanity is under attack. Gabriel's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. The Proxima Confederation? No, John replied. The war with Proxima ended 30 years ago. This is something new, something worse. Gabriel processed this information silently. Then he swung his legs over the side of the pod and stood up. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with the balanced stance of a predator. Show me, he said simply. In the control room, they showed Gabriel the footage from Harvest Moon and the other attacked colonies. He watched without comment, his face revealing nothing. We're calling them the Void Swarm, Eliza explained. They've destroyed 7 colonies so far and are moving toward the core systems. Recognition pattern match, Athena suddenly announced. Enemy signatures match classified file XR7, Project Eclipse. Gabriel's head snapped up. Project Eclipse was terminated. I led the mission myself. What is Project Eclipse? John asked. Gabriel looked at the footage again. During the war, both sides were developing bioweapons, living ships that could evolve and adapt. My team was sent to destroy a research station where the final prototypes were being kept. He turned to Athena. Confirm. All prototypes were destroyed. I set the charges myself. Records indicate complete destruction of research station, Athena replied. However, 1 research vessel was unaccounted for in final report. Gabriel's face hardened. They must have moved some samples off station before we arrived. He looked at the others. These aren't just ships, they're living weapons designed to hunt and consume. They use the matter they absorb to create more of themselves. That's why there were no bodies at Harvest Moon, John realized. They didn't just kill the colonists, they consumed them, Gabriel finished flatly, and used them to grow their swarm. Maya and Kyle joined them, bringing more information about the Nemesis. The ship is operational, Kyle reported. Power systems are at 87% capacity. Weapon systems need calibration, but they're functional. We need to inform Admiral Grant, John said. Get Commonwealth approval to use this ship. There's no time, Gabriel replied. How long before the swarm reaches a major population center? At their current speed, they'll reach New Montana Colony in 3 days, Eliza answered. It has a population of 12 million. Gabriel turned to Athena. Begin full activation sequence for the Nemesis. Prepare for immediate deployment. Wait, John protested. You can't just take a superweapon into Commonwealth space without authorization. The war is over. There are rules now. Gabriel looked at him coldly. Captain, I was created for one purpose, to protect humanity from extinction. That purpose hasn't changed. These creatures won't stop. Every colony they destroy makes them stronger. He gestured to the massive ship. The Nemesis wasn't built to follow rules. It was built to win wars. Eliza stepped between them. We should at least contact Admiral Grant. Let her know what we found. Gabriel considered this, then nodded. Make your call. But the Nemesis launches in 1 hour, with or without Commonwealth approval. While John contacted Admiral Grant, Gabriel walked onto the Nemesis for the first time in 30 years. The ship recognized him immediately, lights coming on as he moved through the corridors. In the massive bridge, he sat in the commander's chair and placed his hands on the neural interface panels. His eyes closed as the ship's systems connected directly to his mind. "Hello, old friend," he whispered. Eliza found him there a few minutes later. "Admiral Grant is sending us coordinates. 3 more colonies have gone silent. The Commonwealth fleet is gathering, but they're outmatched." Gabriel opened his eyes. "And their answer?" "They're desperate," Eliza said. "The Council voted. They're giving you temporary command authority for this mission only." Gabriel stood up. "Have your people come aboard. We launch in 30 minutes. "Commander?" Eliza hesitated. "The Commonwealth isn't what it was 30 years ago. We've had peace for so long. Our people aren't prepared for this kind of war." "No one ever is," Gabriel replied. His face softened slightly, showing the first real emotion since he woke. "That's why they made me, Dr. Wright. So no one else would have to be." As the Nemesis prepared to launch, Gabriel stood on the bridge with his new crew, John, Eliza, Maya, Kyle, and Linda. They looked small in the massive command center designed for a full military crew. "Athena, plot course to intercept the Void Swarm," Gabriel ordered. "All weapon systems online. It's time to remind these creatures why they should fear humanity." The massive engines of the Nemesis rumbled to life as the docking clamps released. Humanity's last war god was awake, and his wrath was about to be unleashed. The Nemesis moved through space faster than any Commonwealth ship. Its engines used technology that had been banned after the war. Gabriel stood on the bridge, his face calm as he monitored their progress. "We'll reach New Montana in 14 hours, he announced. "The Void Swarm will arrive there in approximately 18 hours. "That doesn't give us much time," John said, looking at the tactical display. "The colony has minimal defenses." "They won't need them," Gabriel replied. "We'll engage the swarm before it gets close to the planet." Kyle worked at the engineering station, trying to understand the ship's complex systems. "The weapons are unlike anything I've ever seen," he reported. "This ship could destroy an entire fleet by itself." "That was the idea," Gabriel said. "The Nemesis was designed to be the ultimate deterrent, one ship that could end any conflict." Eliza studied Gabriel as he worked. He moved with precise, efficient motions, never wasting energy. His eyes constantly scanned the displays, processing information faster than seemed humanly possible. "You said you were created," she said carefully. "What exactly does that mean?" Gabriel didn't look away from his console. "I volunteered for the enhancement program in the 3rd year of the war. They took the best soldiers and made us better, stronger, faster." He paused. "Different." "Different how?" Eliza asked. Now Gabriel did turn to face her. "They didn't just change our bodies. They changed our minds. Removed the hesitation that normal humans feel before taking a life. Eliminated the trauma that comes after." His blue eyes were cold. "They called us war gods because we could do what normal people couldn't. Make the hard choices without breaking." The bridge fell silent. Linda looked uncomfortable, while John watched Gabriel with caution in his eyes. Maya broke the tension. "Commander, I've been analyzing the Void Swarm's attack patterns. They seem to be learning, adapting their strategy with each colony they destroy." Gabriel nodded. Project Eclipse was designed to evolve. The more they consume, the smarter they become. "Then we need to stop them now before they get any stronger," John said. As they approached New Montana, Athena detected a Commonwealth fleet gathered near the planet. 15 ships formed a defensive line, the largest military force assembled in decades. Admiral Grant's flagship, the Defender, led the formation. "Commonwealth fleet is hailing us," Linda reported from the communication station. "Put them through," Gabriel ordered. Admiral Grant's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Commander Stone, when they told me they were waking you up, I didn't quite believe it." "Admiral," Gabriel acknowledged with a slight nod. "Your fleet should pull back. The Nemesis will handle the swarm." Admiral Grant frowned. "With all due respect, Commander, I can't allow one ship to face this threat alone, no matter how powerful you think it is." "Your ships aren't designed for this fight," Gabriel insisted. "The swarm will tear through them." "Perhaps," Admiral Grant conceded. But we won't hide while our people are threatened. The Commonwealth fleet will stand with you. Gabriel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Very well. Position your ships behind the Nemesis. Target any swarm vessels that break through our line, but maintain safe distance from our weapons discharge. The communication ended, and Gabriel turned to his small crew. Battle stations, Maya, work with Athena to identify the swarm's command patterns. Kyle, divert all available power to forward shields and main weapons array. Linda, maintain communication with the Commonwealth fleet. John, take the secondary tactical station. Eliza looked uncertain. What should I do? Gabriel pointed to a station near his command chair. Monitor the swarm's biological readings. Your expertise might help us understand how they're evolving. The Nemesis took position at the front of the Commonwealth fleet. Minutes later, Athena announced, Void swarm detected, approaching from Sector 7. Current count, 63 vessels. The main screen showed a mass of black, shifting shapes moving through space. They weren't uniform like normal ships. Each one seemed unique, with jagged edges and organic curves. They moved as one unit like a school of predatory fish. They've consumed 3 more colonies since Harvest Moon, Gabriel observed. They're larger now and more numerous. Reading unusual energy signatures, Maya reported. They appear to be communicating with each other. Gabriel sat in the command chair and placed his hands on the neural interface panels. His eyes closed briefly as he connected directly with the ship's systems. When he opened them again, his voice was cold and precise. Target the largest cluster. Fire primary cannon. The Nemesis shuddered as its main weapon discharged. A beam of blinding energy cut through space and struck the center of the swarm. Several of the black ships disintegrated instantly. The rest of the swarm scattered, then regrouped and charged toward the Nemesis. They're adapting already, Maya warned. Changing their formation to minimize exposure to our main weapon. Switch to multi-target mode, Gabriel ordered. Athena, calculate optimal firing solution. The Nemesis fired again, this time with dozens of smaller energy pulses that tracked individual swarm vessels. More of the black ships were destroyed, but the rest kept coming. The first wave hit the Nemesis's shields with tremendous force. The ship shook violently. Shields at 82%, Kyle reported. They're strong, but they're coordinating their attacks. The space around New Montana erupted into chaos as the battle began in earnest. The Nemesis moved with surprising agility for its size, turning and firing in all directions. Gabriel controlled the ship with fluid precision, his enhanced mind processing tactical information and responding faster than any normal human could. The Commonwealth fleet joined the fight, their smaller ships darting between the swarm vessels, firing whenever they found an opening. But they were clearly outmatched. 2 Commonwealth ships were quickly surrounded and torn apart by the black vessels. They're targeting our allies first, John observed. They know the Nemesis is the real threat. Gabriel's expression hardened. All power to the Helios array. Kyle looked up in surprise. Sir, that system is untested. The power requirements? Do it, Gabriel snapped. Now! The lights on the bridge dimmed as power flowed to a weapon system that had never been used in actual combat. The front of the Nemesis opened, revealing a massive array of crystalline structures. Commonwealth fleet pull back immediately, Gabriel ordered over the communication system. Minimum safe distance 5,000 kilometers. As the Allied ships retreated, the Helios array began to glow with blinding intensity. The swarm seemed to sense the danger and tried to scatter. Firing, Gabriel said quietly. A wave of energy, unlike anything the crew had ever seen, erupted from the Nemesis. It wasn't a beam or a series of pulses, but an expanding sphere of pure destructive force. It washed over the swarm vessels, disintegrating them on contact. When the energy dissipated, more than half the swarm was gone. The remaining black ships retreated quickly, disappearing into the darkness of space. The bridge of the Nemesis was silent as everyone stared at the view screen. The power of what they had just witnessed was overwhelming. Did we win? Linda asked, finally. Gabriel shook his head. No. They're regrouping, learning. He stood up from the command chair, his movements suddenly less fluid. He stumbled, catching himself on the console. Eliza rushed to his side. "You're bleeding," she said, noticing a trickle of blood from his nose. "Neural interface strain," Gabriel explained, wiping the blood away. The ship wasn't designed to channel that much power through one commander. Eliza scanned him with a medical device. "Your neural pathways are showing signs of stress. You need rest." Gabriel ignored her, turning back to the tactical display. "They're not done, and neither are we." The Nemesis had won its first battle, but the war was just beginning. The celebration on New Montana was short-lived. 6 hours after the battle, sensors detected the Void Swarm regrouping. They were joined by more black ships coming from the direction of the fallen colonies. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Gabriel studied the tactical display. Despite Eliza's concerns about his health, he had refused to rest. "They're not just retreating," he said. "They're gathering, building their numbers." "The Commonwealth ships are still repairing from the last battle," John reported. 3 were destroyed, 4 more heavily damaged. Admiral Grant's face appeared on the communication screen. "Commander Stone, our long-range scanners have detected something at the edge of the system. It appears to be the main swarm, much larger than what we faced." Gabriel nodded grimly. "They've been sending advance forces to test our defenses and gather resources. Now they're ready for a full assault." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. If the previous attack had been just a test, what would the main swarm be like? Maya had been working with Athena, analyzing data from the battle. "I think I've found something," she announced. "The swarm ships communicate using a specific frequency. They're all connected to a central intelligence." "A hive mind," Eliza said. "Just like in the original Project Eclipse design." Gabriel leaned forward. "Can we trace it, find the source?" Maya nodded. "Athena and I have been tracking the signal patterns. We believe the central hub is located in the Theta sector near the Yay ruins of Research Station Omega." "That's where it all started," Gabriel said quietly. "Where I was sent to destroy the prototypes." His face hardened. "If we can reach the hub and destroy it, we might be able to stop all of the swarm at once." "But the hub will be heavily protected," Kyle pointed out. "If these advance forces were this strong, the hub will be surrounded by hundreds, maybe thousands of swarm ships." "We need a plan," John said. "Even the Nemesis can't fight those numbers." Gabriel was silent for a moment, thinking. Then he turned to Kyle. "What's the status of the Singularity Cascade?" Kyle looked shocked. "You can't be serious. That weapon was never meant to be used. It was a theoretical last resort." "What is it?" Eliza asked. "A weapon that creates a controlled black hole," Gabriel explained. "It was designed to collapse entire star systems if necessary." "That's monstrous," Linda said, horrified. "It was a different time," Gabriel replied, his voice neutral. "A time when humanity was facing extinction." "Just like now," Maya added softly. Gabriel nodded. "If we can get close enough to the hub, we can deploy the cascade. It would destroy the central intelligence controlling the swarm. And anything else within 50 million kilometers," Kyle added. "There must be another way," Eliza insisted. "Perhaps," Gabriel conceded. "But we're running out of time." The main screen suddenly flashed red. Athena's voice was urgent. "Alert! The Void Swarm has changed course. They are no longer heading toward New Montana." "Where are they going?" John asked. "Based on their trajectory, their target is Earth," Athena replied. The bridge fell silent. Earth, with its 15 billion inhabitants, was the heart of the Commonwealth. "They're learning faster than I expected," Gabriel said. "They've identified our homeworld." Admiral Grant contacted them again. "We've received the same data. The Commonwealth Council is evacuating key personnel, but there's no way to move billions of people in time." Gabriel's decision was immediate. "We're going after the hub. Admiral, take your fleet to Earth. Delay the swarm as long as you can." "That's a suicide mission, Commander," Admiral Grant said bluntly. "Yes," Gabriel agreed, "but it's the only way to end this permanently." After the communication ended, Gabriel addressed his small crew. "I won't order any of you to come with me. The Nemesis can be operated with a minimal crew. Just myself and Athena if necessary. I'm going, Kyle said immediately. You'll need an engineer to prepare the cascade. I'm coming too, Maya added. Someone needs to track the hub's signals. John and Linda exchanged looks, then nodded. We're with you, John said, all the way. Eliza stepped forward. And you'll need a doctor when you push yourself too far with that neural interface. Gabriel looked at them each in turn, his expression softening slightly. Thank you, he said simply. The Nemesis departed immediately, leaving the Commonwealth fleet to defend Earth. Using its advanced engines, the ship reached Theta Sector in just under 10 hours. As predicted, the area around the hub was swarming with the black ships. Kyle worked frantically to prepare the Singularity Cascade, while Maya pinpointed the exact location of the hub. Gabriel guided the Nemesis through the edges of the swarm, using asteroid fields and nebula clouds for cover. There, Maya said finally, pointing to a massive structure on the main screen. It looked like a giant black spider at the center of a web, pulsing with dark energy. Hundreds of swarm ships circled it protectively. We'll never get close enough to use the cascade, John said. They'll detect us before we're in range. Gabriel was silent for a moment. Then, Athena, prepare all weapon systems, divert all power, from life support if necessary. Gabriel, what are you planning? Eliza asked, concerned. We're going to punch a hole straight through their defenses, he replied. One path, directly to the hub. The ship won't survive that kind of assault, Kyle warned. It doesn't need to survive, Gabriel said. It just needs to get close enough. Linda looked up from her console. They've spotted us. Multiple swarm ships approaching. All hands, secure for combat, Gabriel ordered. He sat in the command chair and connected to the neural interface. This time blood began trickling from his nose almost immediately. All weapons fire at will, he commanded. The Nemesis unleashed everything it had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and gravity mines tore through the first wave of swarm ships. The Nemesis drove forward like a spear, aiming directly for the heart of the swarm, but the black ships kept coming, surrounding the Nemesis, tearing at its shields. The ship shuddered with each impact. Shields at 40%, Kyle reported. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 8. A massive explosion rocked the ship. Linda was thrown from her station, injured by falling debris. John moved to help her. We're not going to make it, Maya said, looking at the distance to the hub. Gabriel's face was pale, blood now coming from his ears as well as his nose. The neural interface was killing him, but he didn't disconnect. The cascade, he said, his voice strained. Is it ready? Kyle nodded. Yes, but we're still too far from the hub. Gabriel made his final decision. Prepare a shuttle. All of you get to the escape pods. What are you doing? Eliza demanded. I'll take the cascade in a shuttle, Gabriel explained. The Nemesis will create a diversion. That's certain death, John protested. Gabriel smiled faintly. I died 30 years ago, Captain. I've been living on borrowed time. Before anyone could argue further, a violent impact rocked the ship again. Go, Gabriel shouted. That's an order. As the crew reluctantly headed for the escape pods, Eliza remained behind. I'm staying to monitor your vitals, she insisted. Gabriel looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Until the last moment. The battle raged as the Nemesis continued its desperate charge toward the hub. Gabriel guided the shuttle with the cascade device through the chaos, using the larger ship as cover. When the shuttle was in position, Gabriel turned to Eliza. It's time for you to go. Instead of answering, Eliza injected him with a sedative. As his vision blurred, she said, Humanity still needs its war god, Gabriel. I'll activate the cascade. The last thing Gabriel saw before losing consciousness was Eliza pushing him into an escape pod and launching it away from the hub. When he woke hours later, rescued by a Commonwealth ship, he learned the truth. Eliza had succeeded. The Singularity Cascade had destroyed the hub and all connected swarm ships throughout the galaxy. The sudden vacuum had also claimed the Nemesis and the brave doctor who had made the ultimate sacrifice. 6 months later, Gabriel Stone stood before the rebuilt Commonwealth Council. They offered him medals, honors, a place in the new defense force they were building. He declined them all. That night, he looked up at the stars from a quiet beach on Earth. For the first time in his existence, he felt lost. He had been created for war, but the war was over. Again. As he turned to leave, his communication device beeped. A message appeared. Coordinates to a distant, uninhabited planet. The signature simply read, E. Gabriel smiled. Perhaps the war god had served his purpose after all. Perhaps now he could learn to live